gain. This is a way to increase the power, or an early increase of power or volume to your mic. So you would start, if you wanted to make it louder, this would be the first place to do it. This button, what that does is it reduces the low frequency. It basically cuts the low frequency. The reason you would do that is because a lot of the ambient hum that you would get is at 100 hertz or less. So that kind of cuts down a lot of the. Now, if you're like recording a concert or something where there's going to be a lot of low-end noises or bass or like an orchestra, you would probably not want to have this pushed down because that will actually affect some of those sounds. It'll just sound, I mean, most of the stuff you wouldn't get, but that, for you guys, I would probably have that.
Have it pushed down?
Pushed down.
Okay.
And again, that only affects this input.
Okay.
Okay, this little band is our equalizer band. So what this does is we can adjust our high frequency, low frequency, and another frequency. Sound comes in frequencies. Low frequencies would be like 20 to 1,000 hertz, all the way up to 20,000, or this is affecting the range at 12,000. So if you wanted like your high voice or high frequencies to be louder, you would turn this up. If you wanted those high frequencies to be lower, you would turn it down. Same with the low frequencies. This is at 80 hertz. So if you wanted them higher. The cool thing is our mid frequencies. You actually have an adjustment of where in that frequency range you want it to increase. Most people's sibilants, their really where they enunciate, is at about 2,000. So you can kind of give that a little nudge and people will sound a little clearer.
Okay.
It's kind of nice. Really, you shouldn't have to mess with those a whole lot, but for whatever reason, if you wanted to, say everything sounded maybe a little muddy, then you might want to maybe give your high frequency a little nudge
boost.
and your low
Okay.
frequency a little down. But little small adjustments.
Okay.
Aux, I'm not even going to tell you about aux, because if you guys are doing aux sends and things like that, that's advanced class.
Let's skip that.
Pan's a little bit easier. Basically, if you're sending a stereo signal, or you can choose if you want it to go to the left side or go to the right side. For the most part, you can just leave that
Just leave
neutral.
it right in the central. Okay.
Neutral or mute is
Mute?
mute. You just turn it off.
Okay.
Which might be good. Say you have two mics and you want to, one anchor is talking, they're having their solo portion. You can mute the other mic, and that way, if the person does cough or is,
Okay.
But whoever's running the board has to remember
to
turn
right.
it back
Okay.
on. The PFL, that's pretty strictly for monitoring. So say, more than likely you wouldn't be using that. That would be for if you were doing a live show and one of the mics was sounding a little odd, but you couldn't really tell. You could hit this and listen to that mic individually.
Okay.
This is your main slider for gain. 0 is called, I don't know if you have the name of it. Anyway, so this is you'd start it more than likely at 0, or work your way up to that. When you do turn on your board, have everything turned down. That way you don't blow anything up or hurt a mic or anything. You probably wouldn't because you're not working in that environment, but it's always good practice.
Sure.
And then, turn it up.
So is that the same as this? This?
Now, because it works in a circuit, this gain happens before anything else.
Okay.
And then this happens. This is a lot more powerful. This has a lot more control.
Okay.
You kind of want to get this set and then this is what you actually use for adjusting things. This is harder to see if it's peaking. When you're doing things over here, you're going to see changes in your meters.
Okay.
Here, you don't necessarily see them, so it could be peaking, though this little light will go off. And when I say peaking, that clipping sound, so it's like when things are too loud, it gets all distorted when it gets loud. You're trying to avoid that. That can't be fixed. No matter what they do in post-production, you can't fix clipping.
Okay.
So that's what you're trying to avoid. This is, you want to be cautious with this because you might get some clipping before you actually see it. That's why monitoring is important. So you start low, work your way up until you're getting the levels that you want over here.
Okay.
Okay? So everything's coming through here, however many mics you have, and then they flow over here, and then up through there,
Okay.
and to our outs. So this guy controls everything that's going out. So these are your individual inputs, and then this will increase the volume of the whole mix, the whole thing. If we were messing with these would be involved. But since we're not messing with these, we don't have to worry about these. Yep.
Okay.
We also have an opportunity if you do plug something into your headphone jack. This would be your gain for the headphone jack.
Okay.
Okay, and you have two
And
options.
we want someone with headphones sitting
Yes.
at the.
Yep.
Okay.
What you're looking for is to have your audio right basically at the top of the green when they're talking. When they're talking normally at the top of the green, you should be peachy keen. This little guy right here, this is called phantom power. So if your mic needs to be powered, and certain mics do need to be powered, I think your lavalier mics do,
Okay.
you would turn this on.
Okay.
And you might need like a little pen or something to push that down, a little light will go on.
All right.
All right? If not, if your mics don't need to be powered, you would have it turned off because it might give a little hum
Okay.
to it. But if you're not getting anything from your mic, it's probably because the phantom power is not turned on. So, comes out through here and
Into the camera.
into the camera.
Okay.
All right? The one thing I do worry a little bit, though she really didn't have too much of a problem with it. We are sending potentially sending a stereo signal through here and through here, through the left input into a stereo input here. So pay attention to make sure you don't get that issue that you were having before
Right.
with the weird.
Where we're not getting any sound.
Yeah, or the
Period.
one,
Or
that-
you're getting the
yeah,
mono,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So be aware of that. There is a like a $10 cable that you can get and solve that problem, but it should be fine. If it's not, very fixable.
Okay.
So that's the nuts and bolts. All these, everything else here are outputs. You have the same type of outputs here as here. It's just a different
Adapter.
adapter.
Okay.
So these would be XLR. These would be 1/4 inch. If
That's
you're
like more for musicians and stuff. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, primarily,
Yeah.
it would be the same.
Oh,
It would be
okay.
the same.
All right.
Now inputs, yes. So we have our XLR inputs here. We also have line inputs
Mm-hmm.
here. Say if somebody had a guitar
Right.
that was
that's-
amplified,
Yep. Okay.
it would go in there. It would go in there. And then the difference between mic and line, you might hear that a little bit.
Yeah.
Mic input is usually an input that comes in with a little less power, and it's going to need the gain. That's why if you look, we have two little circles around our
Mhm.
gain button. Mic goes up considerably faster than line. So
Oh,
our 0
okay.
for mic is up here. Our 0 for line is over here.
Okay.
Line means it's already amplified
Okay.
coming in, so you'd
So
want to
you
have
don't-
less,
yeah.
less gain.
All right.
questions? One thing to recognize is one of the most important things in this process is to recognize kind of where the circuit gets its gain increased, because that's where you might have issues. So it starts here, goes here, goes here, and then there's also going to be a potential gain on the camera.
All right.
So you could really have far too much gain pretty quickly, because you're pushing the sound or increasing the volume all the way through here. So
Sure.
be aware that, okay, it could be any one of those spots.
All
So you
right.
kind of start here and then work your way through to figure out, where are we pushing it?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So how does it actually?
So what we're going to do, it would look like this. And we'll plug this guy in here. It's a little dicey.
Hey there.
Did you get a chance to email Steve?
I did not yet.
Okay, so
what do
I'm
I-
going to North Wing. Any screenshots? He's got one, but whatever you got on your phone from yesterday.
I have them all. I'll email them right away.
Yeah, when you get a chance.
Do I need to print them or just email them
Just
to
email
him? Okay.
We need to plug this guy in. So let's move our road show.
Sure.
Really, we just wanted better lighting.
Are you getting all this? I'm gonna have to rewatch this video 10 times this summer.
So we turned it on.
Okay.
We got a power light.
Okay.
You can see all of our mute buttons,
Mhm.
except for one is
Mhm.
lit up. So if we wanted to mute that, we could.
Okay.
Okay. We have our equalizer kind of set the way we want it. We think. Yep. We're cut off there. We've got a little bit of gain. And we'll turn up our test. Actually, 0 is called unity.
Unity.
Remember,
There we
unity.
go.
So this is at unity. Test. So we are not getting anything. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Test. And now, see, this is where you go, okay, what do I have incorrectly selected? Like maybe,
What was that? The phantom power? Comes in or not?
so I'm gonna turn this back down.
Okay.
Turn this back down. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Ooh.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Look at that.
Check. Now, obviously, I was having that very, very close to my
Mm-hmm.
test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. All right. So these are both at Unity. It's a great
Okay.
place to start from. Now everybody's going to talk. All your anchors are going to talk.
Yeah.
Are going to have different levels. Some are going to talk
Mhm.
soft. Some are going to talk loud. So it'll pay for you guys to kind of be aware. That's why you have somebody on the soundboard so they can give it a little bump
Mm-hmm.
or take her down a little bit. It's because you want everybody to kind of sound like they're relatively at the same level.
Sure.
So small, slow adjustments. You don't want it to be doing this because it's going to sound very awkward. But you can just slowly move things up, and it can be kind of imperceptible.